I'm Shivani Gupta. I'm obsessed with small to medium businesses growing. As business owners, we take so much risk and we want to make sure it's worth it. I believe one of the best presents you can give yourself as a business owner is to be able to learn how to scale your people, your profit, and your processes. Welcome to Grow Your Business podcast. I'm Shivani Gupta. I'm your host. I have got this quite amazing woman on our podcast as our guest today. I had the opportunity to meet her a few months ago at a particular conference. We got talking, and Gloria is just doing some extraordinary work, and let me tell you a little bit about her. She is the author and the speaker and the founder, and is the woman behind the Global Hand Signal for Under 16s, released in June to resource and protect our children from abuse and trafficking. Such important work. She is the founder of Handing the Shame Back Foundation, which is a charity dedicated to adult survivors of child sexual abuse. She's also the host of the YouTube and podcast channel of the same name, Handing the Shame Back Foundation. I just want to keep saying that over and over again. She has interviews and resources for survivors. She's also written 3 books. Her memoir on Angel Wings, Flight Path to Healing, is an experiential guide for survivors to use. And her 3rd book, Keeping Kids Safe, is a roadmap for parents and teachers how to keep kids safe from grooming and sexual abuse. She runs events, does public speaking, and believes that all things are possible. Her purpose in life is to help others by shining onto this darkness through love and humility. It is such an honour to have you here, Gloria.
Oh, thank you. So lovely to be here.
And there's been a lot that you've been through. There's a lot that you create and share with the world. Tell us and our listeners today, I guess, some of the adversity or challenges that you faced, I guess, in terms of transforming you into who you are today.
Yes, look, I do believe, and I often get asked this, how is what I went through as a child kind of made me who I am today? And I guess in answer to your question, I went through 16 years of child sexual abuse, including trafficking, and that was my father doing that and leasing me to gangs and other groups. He made a great deal of money out of me, but the really evil twist to the story was that it was my grandmother, his mother, who was training me. So she trained me to be the best child sex slave I could be. And that is how my kind of first 16 years of life were, with no one to protect or look out for. And I think, in answer to your question, what has emerged for me is I am able to overcome, and I'm able, actually, so grateful I made it through, because I'm now able to give back through lived experience, so helping other survivors, hence the charity Handing the Shame Back. That's what we as survivors do when we speak, but also releasing the Global Hand Signal for Children last year, because on my watch, I don't want any other child to be hurt in that way. And we know that trafficking, child sex trafficking, is considered bigger than the drug trade now. So my job is to save the children one step at a time.
Extraordinary. Extraordinary. And I haven't shared this on a podcast before. We're up to almost 200 episodes, Gloria, but, I too had experienced sexual abuse as a child from the ages of about 6 to 11. And I think the fact that you talk about handing the shame back is so powerful, because I know for me, when it first came up, there was the notion of, well, surely I did something to cause it, to create it, to want it. And, it wasn't, until I'd got quite a bit of therapy around that. And, now I speak about it at certain events in the right audiences where I feel safe to do so, in order to be able to educate people and talk to them about the fact that this happens, in loving families. And, most of it doesn't happen on the street. Most of it happens in family dynamics. And I think we have that common passion around the education and doing something about that. You're certainly a shining light and a beacon in terms of some of the work that you're doing. And so the other thing I'm really curious about is obviously you've overcome so many of your own personal challenges. Around 16 years of being trafficked and going through sexual abuse, but also the challenges that come into your business now. And so really interested in hearing a bit more about when they come in now as challenges, or when they've come in the past. How do you deal with it? Do you have rituals or practices or procedures that you follow in order to be able to look at a challenge that comes your way, small, big or large, and how you deal with that?
Yeah, and I think that's interesting, and thank you for sharing your personal story, because I think, Shivani, all that does is allows other people, or gives other people permission to share theirs, and I think that's really beautiful. Thank you. Look, I think any challenges that come in now, I'm not laughing, but I kind of am at myself a little. Everything used to feel so big, and then I realized actually I'm just, this is nothing compared to what I have been through. So I tend to contextualize what emerges, but equally, I've learned to go within and find the power and the answers within. So I have found, and I've seen somewhere, it's 7 times more powerful to go within and quietly seek the answer than it is to go outside or externally. So that's what I do. Yeah.
Beautiful. And, some of the people listening to this, most of our audience are small to medium business owners, and if the statistics are true, many of the listeners have experienced sexual abuse themselves, or witnessed it, or are aware of it. And that would be most of our listeners. And so even though we talk about growing your business, for me, not having done the healing myself, I can't use, the stage as therapy or my coaching as therapy when I'm working with clients. So I had to do a lot of my own therapy. And I just wondered if you would, whether there's any tips or steps or suggestions that you might have for the listeners in terms of if they can relate to that story for themselves, or for people that they know of, whether they're staff members, whether they're their clients, when there is some of that abuse. What are the steps? What are some of the first steps or steps that they can take? What would be your tips or guidance around that?
I don't really understand what you're asking. Are you asking what advice would they give to either themselves or their clients if they newly discovered or a memory emerged? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. So what like if that comes up for them and they go, wow, that's happened to me, but I've never dealt with it, or I've got
Yeah.
a staff member that I don't know how to deal with that, what would
Mm.
be like a couple of steps that they could take in terms of starting those conversations, either with themselves or people, in their lives, because the percentages are pretty harrowing in terms of how many people have experienced it.
Yeah. So look, I think the first step is to acknowledge that if something emerges in you, it's likely that it's true. And although you will have been conditioned as a child to not believe it or feel shame or guilt, or that somehow you brought it on yourself, as Shivani mentioned earlier, it's not true. That's just what we call grooming. So the tip number 1 is honor you, believe you. Tip number 2 would be to actually share with a trusted person. Now that might be a best friend, it might be a partner, it might be someone who is that ride or die friend, as we call them. But just share with one, only one, just to begin, because as we know, it takes the courage of a lion for a child to speak, and as an adult newly outing themselves with this, you can be transported straight back and triggered straight back to childhood. I think if someone comes to you and says, this has happened to me, I think the most powerful thing you can do is to listen and just say, look, I stand with you. I believe you. They're the most powerful words any survivor I've met can hear. I believe you.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Gloria, you've done so much. You're doing so much.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your future aspirations, whether that be around handing the shame back, whether it be other things personally. Tell me about some of the things that you look forward to, you want to do, impact you want to make.
Well, I'm very grateful with the global hand signal and the media attention across the world. My aim is to get this book, Keeping Kids Safe, my third book, into every school. So that's my big aspiration, and I've got some people across the world who are willing to help with that. And the reason I say that, Shivani, is because we've got people, good people like your audience watching, who struggle with hearing conversations around child sexual abuse and the fact that, it's 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys in our country anyway, who are being abused and have been. But they struggle with it because of this thing we call cognitive dissonance, which is the mental construct that occurs when someone mentions it and most good people turn away because it doesn't fit in with their ethics, morals, or values. So the book is designed to try and give people an ability to normalize the conversation and to give them some tools and techniques so that they can understand what to look for and what to do. So that's dedicated to parents and teachers, hence the drive to get it out. Another aspiration would be to have that global hand signal to be on our harbour bridge in New Zealand and across our billboards everywhere. So it saves some kids is my big aspiration.
Absolutely. And for those people that are listening, obviously we're also going to have this on our YouTube channel, Gloria, but for those
Yeah.
people listening, tell us what that signal is.
Oh, okay. So it's palm up. Do it with me, Shivani, so people can see you. Palm up, thumb across, fist. It's that. And so you open your hand straight up, pull your thumb across and close your fist. Now, a child or teenager, I've designed this for under 16s to use if they're being abused or trafficked, feeling unsafe. They won't ever hold out their hand in front of them. They tell me it's not cool. But what we know is you may be walking past a child or an adolescent in a shopping mall or at a gas station, and you might see them with their hand down by their side, just quickly doing that sign. So that's a call for help. And I certainly know that had that been available to me as a kid, I would have used it. I would never have had the courage to use my voice. We know that kids, only 10 to 15% of children will ever speak of this because they're not believed or they're so challenged, they're made to feel worse. So that the global hand signal is my legacy. It's what I'm trying to help people do.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And we will make a little note of that when we release the podcast in terms of that, not only your website and some of the work you're doing there. Gloria, you're giving so much of yourself out, right? You are giving so much. You're trying to make change. I know you're doing a tour. I know you speak very publicly about this, which is fantastic. The more people that are educated, the better. What about managing your own wellness and your own mental wellness? When you're giving so much of you away. So share with us some of the practices or rituals or whatever, however you want to term that and phrase that, that you do for yourself to manage your mental wellness.
Yeah, really good question. So there's 3 things. One is daily meditation. Now that may only be 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, and it may include sitting on a beach in the afternoon or walking on a beach in the afternoon, so a walking meditation. And equally, it's exercise. So I love the physicality of being able to use my body and feeling the endorphin rush with that. So when I do those 2 things daily or as often as I can, I just feel different. I feel more grounded. I think the other thing I do is I learn to have some fun and switch off completely. If you saw the stupid TV shows and things I watch, you'd think, but she's a really intelligent woman, isn't she? Yes, she is, but I like to have fun too. So I kind of find I'm working in a deep, dark place that is threatening for most of the population. So I actually counter that with stupidity and laughter. So that's what I do. That's what works for me. But it's what works for us, isn't it? Yeah, I think you have to, the message to your beautiful audience, lovely ones, is, just find what suits you. If you're an artist, paint. If you're a photographer, take photos. There is no right. There is no only. There is what works for you. And what is for you will always find you.
Beautiful. That is so beautifully put.
Yeah.
Gloria, as people are listening to this, they want to follow your work. They want to know more about the book. They want to know more about the hand signals. So what are the best, if they could look up one or two things, what would be the best place to find you and the work that you do?
gloriamasters.com. And then the YouTube channel I run, and also the charity I run, is called Handing the Shame Back. And so those, I try to keep it very simple. Could give you 15 social media platforms, but the true north are the websites, really. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm going to continue to have a chat to you when we stop recording here, but I am just so grateful for you to come on. But more importantly, I'm inspired by the work that you're doing and the shift that you're starting to make and already have made, and just dedication of your legacy and your purpose and what you're trying to do. And there's a lot that I can learn from that, and also do more. So thank you for being an inspiration to me and to millions of others. And thank you for what you're doing to really raise awareness for something that is so important in this world. Thank you for being on.
Thank you, Shivani. Lovely.
I'm Shivani Gupta, and you've been listening to the Grow Your Business podcast. I hope you got one idea that you can think about or perhaps even implement straight away in your business. Thank you for listening. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn under Ask Shivani. Remember, I call it Ask Shivani, so please send me your questions that I can address in this podcast for you. And I would also so appreciate if you went to the Apple Podcast to rate and review this podcast.